Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Cumberland County Commissioners Finance meeting to order. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, next on the agenda is a presentation from the Community Support Program Career Development. Dana?
So in 2015, we changed the county's grant policy and formed a group to talk about some things that are needed within the community. And part of that group, we had a wide range of people that we pulled together. We had CADIC, the Capital Region Partnership for Career Development, the Carlisle Employment Skills, Central Penn College, Cumberland Perryville Tech, the Library, New Hope Ministries, Tri-County Community Action Center, Kentucky Companies. Those are examples of regulars that were at almost every meeting initially. We had some other subcommittees that we pulled together that pulled additional people from other nonprofits, schools, and businesses throughout the county. And what we were charged with, we're talking about things that the community needs. And we chose workforce development very quickly because that was one of the areas that everybody in the group thought there was a lot of potential for improvement and for inner workings with the different nonprofits and schools and organizations to help come up with some solutions to some of our issues. And we weren't lacking for problems. So it was about finding what everybody in the group thought there was a lack of funding for, because there's a lot of things that have a lot of funding. And so workforce development, of course, came to that list. And the two things were not every student is college material and not every career needs a college education. So how do we start developing things for students to know and understand that there's other opportunities available and what those opportunities are? So it's a combination of, yeah, there's careers that you need a college education for, but there's real life-sustaining opportunities.
Okay, you're explaining the intent of this proposal?
I'm explaining the group.
Okay, because the workforce development was certainly not aimed at those audiences. It was not portrayed that way. And that raises the question that I've been trying to raise for a while. Came up at the CADIC board meeting yesterday. They presented to us, I believe, 6 months or so ago, and conceptually, the workforce development plan that they spelled out has been kicked around for over a year. We're in November of 2016, and the Board of Commissioners still hasn't rendered a decision on support for that program, which is, this board pushed for that to be one of the priorities. So the question was raised after the meeting yesterday, is there any determination on that? Because what they've been told by the chief clerk, I'm sorry to talk about him, he's not here, but he said, we've not resolved the details of how these community service grants are to be administered.
Correct.
So we're still waiting to figure out how we're going to administer this program, or?
We are still in the process of working through things. We've had different RFPs, so I'll skip ahead. So we got to the point where we decided that there were several areas to work on, and we asked for RFPs. We received those RFPs, and in looking at them, a lot of them came in, it was just their organization asking for information. So we went and we created a subcommittee, and the subcommittee was several county employees, Jen Hipp, Bobby Grosso, Larry, and myself, and it included Jen Whitmire from Tri-County Action Center in Kentucky. And we got together with several organizations that had very good RFPs and kind of asked them to work together and combine those ideas to make it a cross-functional development of projects. And one of them is what we're here to present you today, and the other one is on soft skills. Those are the two main areas that we've kind of dived into. Does that answer your question?
It confirms for me that this has drifted significantly from what was originally proposed to the commissioners and approved by the commissioners, but let's have the presentation.
So from the standpoint of the group, this is Linda's presenting it, but there are many players in the room. Justin is here from Cumberland, Perryville, Kent is one of the players, and Linda will go over more of the details of it. I'll turn it over to talk about this point, sorry.
That's okay, that's great, okay. Well, I hope you don't mind, okay, I kind of stand for what I present. And I do want to thank Jessica for coming to represent Perryville Tech. I am Linda Morris, I'm the Executive Director of the Partnership for Career Development. You probably have not heard of us. We are involved as an intermediary. We are basically a partner in developing partnerships between business and education. The difference between what we do and what may happen in chambers, for instance, the Harrisburg Regional Chamber and Critic, is we actually put action into what it is that we discover and refine because we work with our members who are educational entities. We have the majority of educational entities are members within Cumberland County, Perry, Dalton, and Northern New York. Today I'm here to present you what some of the workforce concerns are, in what you already know when you work in Cumberland County, what current Pennsylvania initiatives there are that are involved in career readiness, and then the proposal that I've presented for you, and then we'll discuss some of the actual finances involved.
Do you have any working relationship with the Workforce Investment Board?
Yes, I do.
You do? Okay, we won't detail that.
I can detail that now, if you
No,
wish.
go ahead. I just want to make sure that this was in alignment with the existing.
Yeah, in fact, they are a large funder for our program.
Okay.
We work very extensively. In fact, I'm looking to become a member, or they've asked me to stay on that. As through, and I'll explain to you that there has been a process by which nationally they're recognizing that there's a gap, that we have an issue here, that students are not ready for the workforce. And again, the importance of this is identifying your future workforce. The gaps and the deficits that we have currently should have been addressed 10 years ago. So this is what they have found, CSS.
I agree with that. This is actually, this whole issue, what Dan is mentioning about need a little bit more education beyond high school, but you don't necessarily need a college degree. This has been talked about all the way back to Governor Casey's administration. So, I mean, it's been discussed for a long time, and people have done a lot of talking about it over many years.
And that's exactly, thank you for that. And in truth, one of the strengths of my organization is that we actually not just be a part of that conversation, we actually put it into action. One of the things that our members appreciate is our development of programs. So that's clearly what we're looking to do here.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I appreciate
You
that.
made the point about it should have been implemented 10 years ago. You're right. So, but I just kind of chime in. It probably should have been implemented 25 years ago.
And they were talking about it. You're exactly right. My organization was part of the Federal School to Work initiative. There were 55 entities similar to my own organization that existed. Some, thinking back in the 1990s, they all kind of petered out as funding disappeared. And again, the reason why we're looking for funding. And we still are very low funded. And one of the things that has come up through J.P. Morgan Chase Foundation, it's not unique. It's a national issue. USA Funds, GE Foundation, countless others, chambers, have recognized this for some time. They put some money and thought behind this, and they set out to give $100,000 to 25 states to look at what you're doing in your state. So that was spearheaded by the Chamber, by PAIU, Pennsylvania Association of Intermediate Units, by Department of Labor, Department of Education, pretty much every major player was at the table. And they looked around the state and they said, you guys don't do this very well. Career readiness does not happen there's pockets of successes around the state. And in fact, they identified my organization as one of those. And they said, you know what, you do this really well. You're in the capital region, you do business education partnerships, and you work with others and you develop actual programs you put into work. And I hear it from employers all the time who say, I love what you do, where else in the state do you do it? So we're in a very unique position, what my organization provides.
I just want clarity based on what you said. So you do receive some of the federal WIOA money for our, you do not.
We do not.
So you work with the WIB, but you're not,
We do through the WIP, through the Workforce Development Board.
well, that's where their money comes from, is the federal WIOA money. So you're receiving an allocation already for the South Central's federal WIOA money.
Yes, and we have received an amount which then dried up, and they're funding things like intellectual disability students with that. So they're still continuing to fund career readiness, but they've flip-flopped their funding formula so that we are no longer eligible for their funding.
The federal WIOA money.
Just as a background on where we're at. But part, again, to go back to this initial planning grant, is that there were 25 states that received $100,000 to look all over the state to see what was going on, identified us to the point where we became a part of the phase 2 grant, which is sets a possibility of Pennsylvania, if we get this grant, which will be announced in January, we may be the recipient of nearly $3 million, but that's state level, to develop something, a large number of somethings, including possibly a model of my organization dotted out through the state. So that's kind of what we're looking for. These were some of their findings. 4 to 5 employers report gaps in high school graduate preparation. 55% of job seekers feeling gaps in education for lack of readiness, and the growing credentials gap. This is the information that's new. You all know that Cumberland County is growing. So clearly there's going to be a larger number of students put out into this poll that are not career ready.
You know, our problem right now, if I may say so, is not the young students who will hit the workforce 10 years from now. It's the fact that there are gaps now between skills needed by our employers and the workforce that's out there.
Okay, and I can't address that. My organization works with K-12. I can address to you what the problem will look like I can address it this much because I'm working with secondary students. So what's coming into the market will be a large and growing number of people. What I can address is the enormous bubble of retirees that's coming up and the lack of the support and understanding of what it is that they want to go into. So we have a large number of jobs that we already know. Talk to any employer, including Ken, will tell you that there's a significant number of people that are coming up on retirement age with jobs that students don't even know what they are. So that's what this addresses. That addresses how do we fill that huge retirement bubble that we know is coming in 5 to 10 years. So some of those future needs we know we can speak to, and actually we have Justin who can probably talk better upon some of the future needs because from his area and expertise, which is the Cumberland Career and Technical Center, where are you placing or what are you seeing?
I think everyone probably realizes that there are certain sectors that have a dire need of employees, primarily advanced manufacturing and healthcare fields are some of the fastest growing and some of the biggest opportunities out there. And when we started talking about ensuring that there was a pipeline of workers in these fields, a lot of the conversation came down to career development and workforce development, and that's really where we come in. What we do, and I think we do it very well, is we prepare the students so that when they leave high school, they have a launching point for a career. And like you said, Mr. Hertzler, a lot of students aren't going to need a 4-year degree, or sometimes even a 2-year degree. They're going to need some type of advanced training. And our goal is to get them that advanced training before they even leave high school. And some of the issues that I've been at the boat deck school for about 10 years now, and the same issues keep cropping up, and a lot of it is a communication issue, and it's a educational issue on trying to alert parents, alert students to what are the jobs of the future, what are the jobs of today, and trying to communicate to students that these are real possibilities for you, that there's good wages, there's benefits in these jobs, and they really need to be considered more. I know that everybody's familiar probably with the career in tech ed stereotype that, well, that's for certain people. And the fact is, it's for everybody that wants to have a career in one of the programs that we offer. So when we talk about preparing students, it comes down, and preparing the workforce, it comes down to a communication issue, which is why this grant appeals to me so much, because one of the ways that we fall short is through the early elementary career development, and this is something that will address that. A lot of times, by the time students reach us, they have no concept of what is available, what the community needs, what the region needs, what the state needs, and more importantly, what's out there. If I could convince a student in 9th grade to enter the precision machining program at our school, they literally have a multitude of options that, frankly, they're probably going to make over $50,000 by the time they're 30 years old. But convincing a 9th grader that you want to be you want to program CNCs and be a machinist is something that we're too late in. We hear over and over and over that a lot of the career decisions of students are, the baseline is built in the elementary years, and that's where, frankly, our districts fall short. And don't mean to say that we don't work on career development, because we do, but it's an area that is not given the attention that they need, and this grant allows us to attack that. Linda's organization does a good job of working with the high school stage students and working on career development options for them post-secondary, but there's nothing in place, especially county-wide. And now there's certainly pockets of success and pockets of action, but there's nothing in place county-wide that does any type of thing that like Linda's organization does at this level. And it's just vital that we start earlier, and we start putting these options earlier, and we start letting them know what we need in Cumberland County, what we need in central Pennsylvania, and what we need in Pennsylvania as a whole, to make sure that 10 years from now we're not having the same conversation, and we are attacking some of the gaps that exist.
So just so I'm clear on this, so the school districts are or are not supporting this? Because that's where you get your funding, right?
Correct. We're funded by our 13
And schools are not a county function. So just for those who may not be aware of this, needs to be said. So the school districts are not supporting this? Is what you're saying?
They are not supporting this program monetarily at this point, which is the reason that we're here today.
All right, and we're going to address that a little bit later in the presentation and what they do and do not. And as far as workforce does go, I think we're really the idea that, of course, there are people that are without work today, but the U.S. Department of Labor doesn't recognize 4 to 5% unemployment that we're currently experiencing. Again, not to belittle it, there's still a lot of people at work, but this is not going to address them. It will address a very, very small portion of them. Again, the people that are working at post-secondary, those are already ones that I am working through other programs to address. But this is not the purpose of today's presentation.
Before you move on, I just want to, because I want to follow up on something that Mr. Eichelberger said, because I think it is really important, is, I'll go back to your comment relative to stigma that, may have been attached to anybody who goes to VOTEC or goes to, and they're somehow lesser, to go that track. And I think a lot of this goes back to our school districts in terms of the counseling that happens, in the earlier grades. That, there's a lot of good careers out there, where you can make a decent living, a family-sustaining living. You know, I'm fortunate. I mean, my 3 girls, they all were on the mentality, you've got to go to college. 4 of my 3 girls, thank God, they're all gainfully employed. But there's a lot of college grads, those with masters. 2 of my girls have masters, okay? Fortunately, again, thank God, they're all gainfully employed. There's a lot of folks coming out of college today, can't find a job. Of course, that
We'll
existed,
address that, I promise.
you know, that existed years ago, too. I mean, I remember my first job when I was working at Tom McCann's Shoes, and I had a couple of, you know, folks working at Tom McCann's Shoes with, you know, graduate degrees because they couldn't find a job either. But this has long been, you know, ignored. And, you know, and I think, you know, it's something we need, and it needs to be embraced by our school districts as well. You know, Pennsylvania American Water, I mean, when I was at a reception, you mentioned about the folks who are going to be, you know, retiring. They've got a whole group of folks who are getting ready to retire from Pennsylvania American Water. Great wages, great benefits, you know? I mean, it's, and we definitely have a need, you know, not just in Cumberland County, but this region for employees who can do some of the jobs that are readily available. And it's not just healthcare, it is healthcare, that's one. But anyway, I'll get back off my pedestal now. But I mean, I'm glad that, you know, I mean, I just hope that we could actually do something about it, because we haven't talked about it for a long time. But the schools need to be on board with this.
And I will talk about it,
Okay.
I promise. Okay, and going back to 4 years, this 4 years in college, strange enough, coincidentally, great segue right into this. For those of you who received this electronically, I encourage you to hit that hot link on Sometimes. And that will send you to a video from Kevin Fleming that discusses this at length and this disparity. Awareness is needed clearly. You know, for those of us who have children, you know, they only put in 529 accounts for money and assumed that they would be going to college. That's what we do. It is our culture, absolutely, and we believe that is the key to success. But what Kevin Fleming shows in his video, which I will not show for you right now because it's a 9-minute video, is that there are other options, and we need to show these options as early as possible so that they don't become scary things and don't develop the stigma. So some of those options to two-year college, credential programs, career technical centers, dual enrollment, advanced placement exams, which they do offer in career technical centers, if you're not aware, military apprenticeship, on-the-job training, and training programs presented to a group of counselors at the Capillary Intermediate Unit. Apprenticeship as this was elementary student teachers, counselors, did not know what apprenticeship was. So clearly, if they don't know what it is, they cannot communicate it to their students. These are some of the initiatives that this is what is going on in Pennsylvania as far as this is concerned. Currently, we do have state-aligned standards that define what they should be learning as far as career readiness. We also have something called kindergarten through 12 or K-12 comprehensive counseling plans. I'm going to refer to those as a 339 plan if you can hold on to that thought, because that's what they're called from Act 339. And that's what they know them in the schools as. So they're 339 plans. It'll never happen in that again. But that is the key piece to this and the key piece to why those educators are going to be listening and want to invest in this program from their human capital perspective. Additionally, the New Skills for Youth grant that I mentioned earlier, that's the J.P. Morgan grant that we hope will happen. As a part of that, whether that happens or not, the development at state level of a career readiness commission, it will be called COMPASS. That will exist. So we are working to get some legislation happening. My organization is part of that steering committee as well. The Education Policy and Leadership Center, the ELC, which is a national group, has published this report, which again is another hot link there that has 34 recommendations that they will be giving the state as far as, now that's kind of focused on career and technical education, but they're certainly relevant across the board. One of the things that we do, for better or for worse, in Pennsylvania is that we have filed all the career readiness components directly to the career and technical centers, which do a phenomenal job of them. The tracking and everything they do is outstanding, but the larger component is not clear. And for those of you who have students in Carlisle here, I'm going to use this as an example because I know it, because my child is a student, my children, or they have what exists in many school districts. There are 3 paths. So you have a career and technical path, you have a highly educated college path, and then you have the mysterious path in the middle that doesn't really know what they want to do. And that mysterious path in between invariably ends up getting filed to 4-year colleges, because that's not what we know. The challenge is that's not where the jobs are. The 4-year colleges are valid. There are lots and lots of jobs in there, but the Kevin Fleming video will show you that historically, currently, and in the past, the majority, there is 1 highly professional job for every 2 that require a 4-year college degree. Everybody else, 2 years and less. So in 70% of jobs, about 66, if you look at numbers like I have, about 66% of the jobs only require a 2-year degree or less. That could be a credential program, that could be on-the-job training, that could be a career tech. So this is some of what exists for initiatives. Okay, so those exist, so why do we need to jump in? Well, the challenge with this is that we have low priority in getting these, like this comprehensive 339 plan I talked to you about. It's a mandate, but there is no incentive for it. They're already struggling meeting their testing requirements, and they have a larger reason to do that because the testing requirements are now not only tied to their funding, they're tied to performance, their own educators' performance. So whether that person gets a raise or not, it's tied to those testing. So they want to make sure they're doing well on tests. There's very little technical support for this kind of a program, a career readiness program. There's nobody out there, there's 2 people in the state for 501 school districts that are going around trying to help people to develop these comprehensive counseling plans, which take 1.5 years to develop each. Then they submit it to the state, then it gets approved or not, and then they put it into motion. And it doesn't necessarily include a comprehensive elementary program. There is little time for ability to develop partnerships with businesses. That's one of the reasons that my organization is so important in this area. We do that. We help them to do that. For businesses, they go out and they do what they do best. They develop services and products. They spend a tremendous amount of time doing that. They're on the cutting edge of technology quite often. Educators do what they do best. They educate students. The in-between doesn't happen. It doesn't happen very well, and that's why there's these initiatives that are going on to help that to happen. The challenge as well is that the bulk of the mandate or this 339 plan falls on the counselors. Counselors are responsible. They have a 3-part component to their job. The first part is social and emotional health. Second part is academic health. That third part is the career part. But I will tell you that anybody who's going to go out there in front of you in that career, in that office, is going to get top priority that day. They can't put that academic part. That's also a mandate on hold because you've got students who need to be placed. So that career, which again is not tested, there's no funding, and there's no technical assistance for it, gets put on the back burner. So they're not in a place to do this. Quite often they're cutting counselors in school districts. So let's talk about why 5th grade. And those first 3 bullets point to 5th grade, the others continue with the actual proposal. 5th grade is, if again, we look at that bubble of retirement, and we go back and we say, in 10 years from now, we look at the Department of and we speak to Ed Ledgy, as I have at the Department of Labor in Harrisburg, He'll tell you, the biggest issue we have is this huge level of retirement. We're scared. We know that people that have jobs that cannot be replaced in advanced manufacturing, specific jobs, people that have lost or have jobs that they have gotten huge components that have been blown up now through attrition. They're irreplaceable. So now, how do we get them? So we need to look at that. If we go back 10 years, we're going to hit around 5th grade. So that's 5th grade 1. I'm going to hit developmentally appropriate next, out of order. Developmentally, the work of Donald Super from New Zealand, as well as countless other international, internationally we know this, that it's called the age of elimination, which is a negative connotation in 5th grade. It basically means these kids are coming of age. They recognize they can't be Superman, they can be Spider-Man. This is the ideal opportunity to introduce to them what they could be. I love using the example of a smartphone, the smartphone technology, your iPad, your anything like that has location services on it. If you spoke to a 5th grader, would they know what GIS is? Guaranteed no. If you spoke to your 5th grade teacher, they probably don't know what it is either. Global information systems is a huge industry that is going to require people to be in it. Now, what GIS looks like in 10 years, we don't know. But we work with the Tech Council, and we're going to ask them that. And if a student has an interest in technology in 5th grade, we can cultivate that so they follow the changes, so that they're on the cusp of what that is. The final piece of why 5th grade is the parent engagement piece. That's key. It is truly the last opportunity that we can reach an effective number of parents in one place at one time. Once you get out of 5th grade and you move into middle school, you're done. Middle school, we intentionally file parents out of the equation because we want the children to develop socially. So 5th grade, we still have active PTOs, PTAs, we still have concerts where all the parents are coming, we still have a lot of parent interaction. Sometimes most often it's mandatory that you've got conferences with parents. So it's a really last opportunity to reach those parents to tell them, do you know what? Career in tech is not a scary thing. I'm going to take you there. We're going to hold you by the hand. We're going to walk together. And this is what that could look like for your son or daughter. These are career paths with family-sustaining wages. This is not something to be frightened about. This is something to be encouraged by. Additionally, for 5th grade, we can, the program itself would be developing and cultivating business education partnerships. Everybody wins there. And again, an early introduction of those post-secondary options. So the program itself, although it doesn't physically exist, this is what would be involved, or what is the goal of that. So there would be curriculum and advisory teams, which eventually would be merged. The curriculum teams, of course, coming from schools, and some information from the employers, and the advisory as well. Again, our career and technical schools work with advisory teams as a regular process. With the implementation of the 339 plans, schools would be required to have advisory teams anyway. So this is setting that up. Only what it allows us to do is to set it up with the places that are saying that the HPOs, the hyperactive occupations in Cumberland County. Quite often in 5th grade, if you have a career fair or if you're connecting and you have these counselors out there trying to do this on their own, they're going to get whoever's in the classroom. So if you had a classroom in 5th grade that has a whole bunch of lawyers, you're going to have a great advisory team that consists of lawyers, but you may not touch at all upon the needs of the actual region, which is Cumberland County. So what are those? So let's develop them. Future, again, it would be integrated, and this is through some consultation I have been part of with some educational entities that have said, your best shot at this is to integrate it. That way it's not a big deal, it's not a standalone, something that sits on a shelf. This means we're already doing the math, an example could be, we're already doing the science class. So let's talk for the last 5 minutes about, or take out our journal, and let's write about some things we learned today that we might want to look up at our one dedicated career component at the end of the week. And that will be through a website. It would, through development of the curriculum, meet the state standards clearly and the requirements for the 339 plan. Again, aligned with HPOs, and again, having an opportunity for family engagement. Would be addressing future workforce needs in Cumberland County. Again, talking about those future retirement increases. It aligns Cumberland County needs with the developing workforce and brings awareness to parents and families to demystify occupations and break down stigmas we've already talked about. Moving on, additional benefits, build business education partnerships, engaging in fun, and it actually would put Cumberland County at the distinctive position of being a model for the state. With my connections, clearly this is something that could be brought to any other region with your permission, that we could develop this as a model. With the 339 as a statewide mandate, they're really not doing this very well anywhere in Pennsylvania. If we developed a program like this, it's something that we could bring across the state and really would put us on the map. This is just a background on my organization. We are, and this program is unique from anything that we are currently doing. We don't offer anything like this. We generally do programs that are standalones at the secondary level. Builds on our strength as an intermediary. We're already in the schools. We already have tremendous strength in those schools. And we also have a group of businesses we work with on a regular basis that would or could be a part of that. And post-secondary, we work with all of them. Post-secondary, apprenticeship, we're kind of across the board. Let's see, strengthen the flexibility to be in the schools, which we do. It would not replace anything like a junior achievement at all. It would integrate something like a junior achievement. That's a great program. I would not look to take anything out like that. And any of the efforts that they're already doing would be already integrated. It would just be a part of their program. It would comply with that section of what it is that they do. And again, it does exist there. Existing program to expand existing program to introduce identified needs for beginning awareness in elementary school. So briefly, website, Career Tech Family Night, we've already discussed, speakers, field trips and cable, videos, we would be partnering with Cumberland County Library System. There would be a soft or essential skills introductions. Clearly, kids need to know when to put their phones away. That kind of information is great to start in 5th grade. Financial benefits, consequences, introduction. So, if you are if you're looking to do early education versus if you're looking to do plumber, what are the differences? And by the way, the plumber makes a lot more. And it would be a branded and recognizable program. So these are some of the partners that have been sort of laid out that already exist, that we've already made the categories in partnering. This is not an all-inclusive list.
So these have already committed to your program?
Yeah. These are the partners that have already said that they're absolutely, the school districts have expressed tremendous interest, but I have not keyed in on them with your decision. If you decide to move forward with this, we'll put out probably an RFP to determine the right one, the right 2 schools to pilot this. I'm sorry, school districts. Schedule days sort of 0 to 90, we'll be developing those teams, the branding, promotion, identifying those pilot districts, and continuing work with the partnerships. Days 90 to 180, we'll be developing the components, the integration, hopefully, in days 180 to 270, and then tracking success as an opportunity for the last part of that.
I don't see HAC on here.
Oh, that was my mistake. They are on there and they're an existing partner. I apologize, but HAC is on there. They are an existing partner. Thank you for bringing that up.
And so, for this process to work, you're going to have, you have different partners here. You've already talked to KDIC, et cetera, et cetera. I guess I'm a little confused as to what we concentrate on the fifth grade. You know, I see this being part of possibly a school program.
Right.
They say a Cumberland Valley or Big Springs would say, yeah, this can be part of our curriculum.
That's the idea.
Okay.
That it would be integrated into their existing curriculum. It's not a standalone piece.
Okay.
Initially, I had looked at that and had spoken to a number of people who had that very same concern. And who said, you know, the very, very best way to be able to do this is if it's not scary and it's already built into their existing curriculum. So we will be working very closely with the schools who've already expressed a tremendous interest in doing this, because again, they want to do this, they get it, and they understand the need, especially from the career coordinators that I work with at the secondary level, who are saying, oh yeah, I'm not seeing anybody who knows anything that's going on. And it's in compliance with the mandate, which is very, very open and kind of, wishy, I don't want to say wishy-washy, but it's, there's no parameters. As long as they're making connections with business, it's okay. So if all of their business is focused on one sector, it meets the mandate. I'm saying we have this really unique opportunity to jump in while they're developing these 339 plans to say, no, these are the partners I want you to understand, and the partners that come to us to say, we are going to have a huge need. We know this. We want to partner, and they already are. DCNR is one of them. DCNR DEP, civil service is another one. Civil service is one of the biggest employers in the state. They're freaking out. For lack of a better way to put that. Developing an organizational team, obviously be an employer team that will assist with that, an educational team, and a community team. They will all come together at some point or another and develop an advisory team, which will then continue as and when indefinitely, hopefully, as they do with the technical schools as part of the mandate. They should. There's a promotional component, obviously, the branding of it, marketing collateral, and of course, publicity of it. And the bottom line is in your packet in there. The budget looks like this, a breakdown of the $100,000. Some of that, I can't, there may be some leeway, so I'd have to have some specifications on what you would give me leeway on, because certainly some things will cost more than I'm anticipating. Some things may cost less. In fact, I've leveraged a lot of relationships to get this price down to where it is a very small amount of money to do a very large amount of work. And some of these partners are partnering at no charge. So I want you to take a moment and look at that. We've kind of covered some of these components, but those are our initial metrics will be the development of these. So the development of these components will be the first initial metrics that which we determine if this is a success. The development of these connections, these business education partnerships, these partnerships with the schools. Again, here are additional ideas. This is clearly what needs to happen and what has not happened. The conversations have been going on for many, many years about the fact that it needs to happen. This actually allows us to happen. The tracking then, of course, would be the additional component. What that would look like moving forward, that would be a stage 2 question. As far as sustainability, in the event of discontinued funding, it definitely has the ability to continue, at least in those initial pilot districts, with support from the employers and key stakeholders who would like them to be part of this. We want them to have a little bit of something in the game. They can participate through sponsorship, educational improvement, tax credits, the FTC funding, direct donations. Again, the school districts are behind this. We hope that they will be able to continue this on their own and develop this into their budgets if it adds additional needs. We anticipate that there should be some state level grants. We hope that they start to put some funding behind that 339 plan, and I'm working again at state level to try and make that to happen. And the Career Readiness Commission office hopefully will be a good chance for that to happen.
So the schools are behind it as long as someone else pays for it. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, and to be quite honest about this, this shouldn't be a county responsibility, okay? DCED, state government, all of the workforce development efforts. And in addition to that, our educational institutions, right? The entire culture, right, and the paradigm, should have changed a long time ago. In other words, that, in fact, you listen to the presidential election, okay? Push college, getting to college, then you gotta get to college. And how long have we heard, you gotta get that college degree or you're a failure, I mean, the whole culture needs to change, in order for this to work. And our school districts, quite honestly, should be at the front of this effort, not the back end. Now, that has to do with the Department of Education, that has to do with DCED, has to do with a lot of different entities. But, again, there's a lot of peer pressure. And once you get into high school, it's like, what college are you going to? And of course, you got to decide by the beginning of your junior year in high school what college you're going to. And you apply to all these colleges, and we got a lot of people, young people in our state that are up to their eyeballs in debt, okay, because of this push.
And absolutely, and I see this from my own standpoint. My son is his third year in Gettysburg, and he's by far now the smartest kid in his class. He got A's and B's and some C's. He's got loads and loads of friends that had straight A's, and I watched them. My next door neighbor, Colonel somebody, I've seen his son, who was on a similar path, much smarter than my son, who went off to Penn State and then fell off the ride, like many of my son's peers. And I've watched it happen. So now he has debt, and he still has no idea what he's going to do. And he now feels like a failure, and his parents feel like a failure. And that kind of stems, as horrible as it is, back to 5th grade, where nobody said, hey, you should start thinking about what you want to be in life. I know you know what you can't be. But here's some of the things you never knew existed that you could be a part of. And yeah, unfortunately, the school should be doing this.
And I'll tell you, some of the smartest people in the world never got a college degree. So.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You gotta watch the video. You'll be changed. So this is on you.
I don't want to be that on college mistake, But that's the point, and it shouldn't, reach the point where, we have certain obligations as county government in code, in the county code, of things that we're supposed to do. Right? The state is shortchanging us in terms of its funding obligations for those mandates. So, that was one of the questions as we consider this proposal is, we've got other obligations that we need to meet. This should be a number one priority of our educational institutions and our, state government, to be honest with you.
And it should, but realistically and unfortunately, it doesn't, it's not. And the longer we wait, the longer we see the issues that will compound as this doesn't happen.
You're absolutely right. I think what you've identified here is really on target. And you've identified the problem that's been around for a long time. Each year I look at governmental statistics about, high school kids coming out of school, they rank the rest of the world. It's going lower and lower. We can sit all here all day and point fingers at who's to blame, but it's not the kids' fault. Jim, Carrie, when we were in school, we were taught basic education. There was a course called civics. Remember that? U.S. history was required. I hate that I will point fingers at the education system here. Some of our school districts just brag how wonderful they are. Sorry, I don't feel that's the same way to a degree. If you're a brilliant kid or a child who needs a lot of help, you're going to be taken care of Larry and Jim, we certainly appreciate what you're saying, because if this doesn't end soon, I don't know where this company's going to go. But is it up to the county to pretty much tell the education section of our state and country what to do? I mean, it's pretty obvious what they need to do, but why aren't they doing it? Again, we could talk about that for hours.
And I think where it's strongest, and you'll hear this more, is you're the employers, from their standpoint, they're concerned. And they should be concerned.
A good friend of mine is an engineer, owns his own engineering firm. He said, Vince, I can't find new engineers. I don't have a school to do some, just aren't qualified. That's a scary thing.
Just partnering right now with somebody who is in engineering and says exactly that. The benefit of them partnering with my organization, like I can tell them, you know, they show me their great website to do business education partnership, and I say, yes, you need to do that. But then they show me they have their civic engineering, their sections. I say, okay, what you need to do is not look at this from what you have to offer, but from what the visitor, your students, know that they're interested in. I'm interested in animals, right, environmental engineering. Oh, I never thought of that. So you break it down so that you're looking at what they call back in 5th grade as, you know, what makes you get up in the morning. And I can relate anything. I do this with students when I get to, I get to get in at the weeds level, and I clearly work up to 35,000 feet with the legislators. But when I'm down in the weeds and I'm speaking with those students, and I ask them, tell me something that doesn't relate to career job. There's nothing. Oh, well, what about drug use? Okay, so we have a lot of counseling support. We have alternative research and development is methodology. Well, you know, what about incarceration? You can't tell me that as yeah, it absolutely does. There's really many jobs that clearly do not run the path of the fellow for it. There's nothing that we can give me that does not relate to career development. It's unfair. And we don't do it well in Pennsylvania. It's unfortunate. And you know, this is a solution I'm presenting to you. You know, that's really up to you whether you choose to move forward with this.
I appreciate your dedication to this. Justin, your name is Justin's your name?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah. Come over and prepare to go text stones for my house.
That's all right.
And another friend of mine who's not college educated, owns a small business, is a big, is very connected to VOTEC and how important it is that he sees that you don't need a college degree to succeed. Welders, mechanics, electricians, I mean,
Heating and air conditioning.
oh my gosh,
We had a former
Construction
commissioner,
as a black eye, but construction is doing quite well right now.
we had a former commissioner here who was very tightly involved with VOTEC, was a student there, was at it for many years, and he's employed a lot of people and was extremely successful. We used to joke once in a while, if he just had a college degree, he would have made something of himself. But he did very well.
Yeah.
So
I love telling people that they can't, you know, you can't export construction. You can't have somebody make their house in China and have them ship it over.
No.
Those jobs will always exist.
Yeah, and all the, you know, mechanics position and everything else. I mean, those,
Oh, yeah, diesel is special.
you can make big money. I mean, it's good
Huge
money.
money.
Good money.
Computer networking.
And we're not talking about, you know, going to McDonald's here, but I mean, there's a lot of really good jobs that are available. And
Steve, do you have any questions?
Can I make a comment too? I know that this is geared towards the 5th grade and career awareness, but it does interlink into everything
I
that
know.
we do.
Right.
Because if we reach these students and they get out of school and they have good jobs, they're less likely to end up in our human services or in the prison. And so it's about reaching students and helping them, and then hopefully in the long run, it also helps us.
Yeah, no, I totally.
and
And it
for-
also helps
And
bring
for a lot of
businesses.
parents, maybe their children will actually grow up here, or I mean, stay here, rather than stay here. 'Cause all my girls moved out, you know?
And
I
that's
got
the
one in California and two in the Philly area.
I love Cumberland County. I live here, I live about a mile down the road. I know it's a great place to live, and it's a great place to raise a family. And the work that this could potentially do would certainly help keep some of these students in Cumberland County and help them to grow and raise their own families.
Justin, I did have one question specific I wanted to ask. Over the past, how long have you been at Cumberland?
About 10 years.
10 years. What's the enrollment there like from year to year to year? Have you seen growth, or is it pretty much the same?
We're at about 1,000. We've hovered around 1,000 in the last 3 school years. We dipped as low as 850, 875 around 5 years ago, and we've climbed back up to 1,000, and we've kind of stagnated right there.
And statewide, only about 12% of students are walking for tech.
Yeah, we do, and that's about where we are. Our 13 consortium districts, there's about 9,300 eligible students in those grades to come to us, and so when we get about 1,000, that works out to about 12%. So, yeah, I just want to, Commissioner Eichelberger said something about WIOA, and one of the big emphases with the changes in that area have been to
Just so everybody knows, Workforce Investment and Opportunities Act is the federal law for those.
And you know, there's a real emphasis in WIOA to address out of school youths, but also those with the skills gap. So we're talking about 17 to 25-year-olds, and part of the issue with that is if we keep addressing that group, it doesn't solve the problem. We're trying to deal with something that should have been solved back in 5th grade. So as our group met over the last year, and we talked about what is really the root cause of this? What is going to be not the WIO effects, because frankly that's going to keep bandaging the same issue. But what is the root cause, and how do we address that? And that's where we started talking about, well, and the employers were in line with this elementary outreach, and it has to be more, and I understand the whole point of schools should be doing it. I preach that every day to 13 school districts. Hey, you need to tell your students what we do and make it important to them. And we can help you, but you need to do that. And then as our group kind of defined, hey, this is one area to attack this problem, this is one strategy to attack this problem, and the RFP for the grant came out, I immediately talked to Linda and said, Linda, this is exactly what your organization does on the high school level. There's really 2 groups that serve as a liaison between secondary students and the workforce, and that's our school, Cumberland Berry, and then that's the Partnership for Career Development, and they largely serve students that don't come to Cumberland Berry. We have some interaction on certain projects, but between our 2 groups, that's it for the connection between the educational system and the workforce, and bringing that connection downwards into an elementary level. It doesn't exist at all right now. I mean, there's maybe pockets here or there. One company will come in and present, but in any type of organized, comprehensive fashion, that connection doesn't exist, and that's what Linda's organization provides right now on the secondary level. And the proposal is to move it downwards into the elementary level. And the idea with the grant is this gives us the opportunity to start that, and the goal is then that would be then the value shown to the districts, and then they can build that cost in. And when we're talking about, we have 13 consortium districts, but there's a lot of school districts. You take $100,000 and divide that, throughout. It's not a huge sum, but getting it started and showing its value is part of the importance, I think, of this.
Well, I think the grant engagement is very important too.
And it's
I mean, I understand about districts cutting down on the counselors, but I mean, the counselors need to be, the school district counselors need to be engaged and supportive of this. Again, I'll, change the paradigm of what we've been doing and what we've been preaching. I grew up in Lancaster County, so I'm very familiar with, used to be called Stevens Trade Schools, now Stevens School of Technology, I think I renamed it. But, excuse me? Yeah, Stevens Trade School. Anyway.
Good school.
Yeah, their placement rate's like 92%, and people, draftsmen, coming out of all the kind of crafts.
Jobs to the student.
Yeah, big money. They make big money right out of school, And so that's the, kind of thing we need to be keen in with involving our
Awareness.
all levels of education. Well, that's, and I'm glad to see you have Central Penn, on this as well. And I think Asbury Community College, have you talked to Shippensburg at all? Shippensburg?
You work with them, or I specifically said, but certainly I'm not opposed to bringing them in. It's one additional, as I said, it's a growing list of partnerships, absolutely. We work with them, we do a regular program with the secondary level, and it's what we call a campus connections, or career connections on campus. And basically the idea is that for secondary students, we take them to the campus and here are the opportunities. We connect with universities that tell us where are your high placements, where are your high needs, your high interests. So,
Again, I think, some of the certificate programs that are available, and I mean,
there's a lot to connect with, and I don't write curriculum. I'm not the expert there. I reach out to others. I'm a connector, and that's the value of my organization is a connecting pieces, putting all those pieces together, and I just watch the synergy and put it down and develop something that looks like this.
Jen, you didn't have much to say. We don't want to put you on the spot.
The thing that's been going through my mind is the point that Commissioner made about we have a whole bunch of adults who are currently out of employment or don't have skills for employment. And I would say, we've been working with employers saying, why the heck is that happening? Because there's plenty of opportunity, particularly in Cumberland County, for employment. And I think that's where you'll see the second set of proposals that we come through is employers are telling us, in that case, it's not necessarily about skills, hard skills, it's about soft skills. People don't have wherewithal of understanding why you show up for work on time or why you don't mouth off to your boss.
We would know any of that.
And so I think that's what you'll see to address that. I think that's what you'll see. We didn't, as a committee, we didn't ignore the fact that we have an issue with adults. But we thought as a committee, this helped get to the root and start hopefully to break that cycle so that at some point we can stop talking about the adults.
Everything you said makes sense, it really does. And consider the proposal. Thank you for coming here today. Gary?
No, that's fine.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Linda,
Thank you,
Justin,
Commissioners.
thank you very much. Folks have any card business?
Absolutely.
I apologize, mine is empty.
That's okay, I got you. Justin, okay.